You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks and Zach Bechtold. We hope you enjoy this week's show, and you can find out more about us by going online at beardedtheologians.com, where you can pick up a few t-shirts, listen to a few old episodes, and find ways that you can connect with us. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week, kind of as we get ready for Holy Week and Easter and everything, we felt like it would be a really good conversation to talk about our digital front doors and why those are important. Zach, why do you think a church having a good digital front door is important?
I think it's important to start with what is our digital front door? What is a digital front door? That can be, for the church, that can be everything from our websites, our social media presence, the way that we engage our worship services or sermons digitally, whether that be live streaming or podcast form, or even just our newsletters and emails, right? Like anything that we're using to connect with people outside of the physical structure of the church is our digital front door. And what I find really interesting in this conversation, especially regarding the church, is even post-COVID, there is a resistance or reluctancy, maybe, but is a better term, to embrace our digital front door beyond maybe a newsletter, maybe a website. But the expectation remains for people to eventually enter into our physical doors, which is a great thing. That's an opportunity as well. But if you're in my day-to-day life, you've heard me rant about this, that people may never walk through our doors, but they may always walk through our digital doors. And that's why it's so important today to have a solid digital front door, right? And I'm not talking about a sparkling, crisp website, although that's helpful, but having something that's user-friendly, that when people find you, it's easy to find you. They can find what's going on in the life of the church. They can find a sermon or a worship service. They can find how they get plugged in. And I have people for years have had people visit the church who walked in and called me by name, and I don't wear a name tag at church very often. And it always makes me question, well, how do you know who I am? How do you know my name? Have we met before? And often the answer is, oh, we've been watching you guys for months now. We just moved into town, a couple of months ago, or even a couple of years ago, and we just finally had the courage or the time, or insert whatever a verb there. Is that a verb? Insert whatever there in the ad libs of that, to show up in person. But we've been watching you. We know you. We feel like we know this church well, and I think it's amazing and such a fruitful thing that we have to do as a church, right? And where I get frustrated with the reluctancy to embrace it is all of us, no matter what age or demographic you're in, encounter digital doorways all the time, or digital front doors in the healthcare system. That's where we start now. Everything is a process through an app, right? To log in, to establish care, that kind of thing. Our business and retail, it's all digital front doors now, right? Like the physical brick and mortar buildings are struggling, and we lament that in our communities all over the place, but we still keep shopping on wherever, right? So to be reluctant to embrace it as a church, I think we are selling ourselves short by demanding people come to us when we have a perfect way to reach out, to lean into the vitality of who we are as Methodists, right? And to get outside of our four walls in a way that may be a little uncomfortable for us, or maybe quite unexpected for us. But that digital front door is where it happens. And without getting into the best practices and things like that, I think for me that's the foundation of why it's important, and how we begin to embrace that.
Agreed.
All right. Thanks for listening to the podcast. We'll
Uh, I have a few things to say. I always think
sure.
that usually when people move into a community, what's the first thing that they do? If they're believers, they look and see if there's a church that will fit who they are.
They
And,
Google,
and the
right?
way that they do that is they'll watch a few services before they start coming. My research has shown and proven to me that the most of our people that have been new in the
Mhm.
last 3 years literally have watched us 2 to 3 times before they came in
Yep.
person.
Yep.
And I think that that's important that part of the church continues. I think any church that does it, you better get ready because you're probably going to have to be shutting your doors because it's just what, like you said, it's what people do. Like
Mhm.
it's really what people do when they move into a new community. That's the first thing they look at. And if you have a good web presence that says the right things and does like shows the right things and the proper things, then you have a great chance of reaching people that you didn't know. I also think that it provides us a way of, and I'm not necessarily one for the capitalistic mentality of butts and pews and
Mhm.
largest churches better. However, the digital allows us to reach people who can't come to our doors, whether
Mhm.
it's they're watching it in a nursing home or an
Mhm.
assisted care facility. We are working on a way for people to do that. We
Mhm.
have a couple places where that happens because we've had people show how this can happen. And so
Mhm.
we have, a group of people that watch in an assisted living
Yeah.
facility. Um, we're able to reach out to people that we're not able to reach in person in a way that is very accessible. It's the way that my grandma gets to have church. She'll watch our
Yeah.
church on Sunday morning, and dear Lord, if I'm not there, I hear it. Even if
Mhm.
I'm there and I'm not preaching, I hear it.
Mhm.
Usually with a text message or phone call within an hour of the service being over. It's a great way because my kids also are a part of the service. It's a great way for my in-laws and family to see the kids
Mhm.
do something that they love to be a part of.
Yeah.
I think of when Emily sings a solo or has or Laura's in the service, I try to let family know just that way they can feel connected into it.
Mhm.
Um, it's just such a vital part of our church ministry. It's more important than the church sign in the front of your building because
Mhm.
you're more likely to have more people look at that than you will your church sign.
Right.
Um, it's the first thing I do when been doing this for a long time now. And when I take an appointment, the first thing I do is look at their web presence because it gives me a real good look at where the church is at.
Mhm.
Um, I'm gifted enough to know how to do some things. I don't know how to do all the things. I know how to do enough to make it look better or to make it more consistent, which is something that you and I talk about a lot when we talk with friends who want to start a podcast.
Mhm.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
Consistency with your web presence is key. And one of the nice things that like Facebook and YouTube can offer is that you can schedule things. Like I schedule there are videos that I put together throughout different sermon series, and I'll put all those together in like a week, and then I schedule those posts out, and I don't have to worry about it. And same thing with like our stuff throughout the week. We have things that's content that's created, we schedule it out, and then we don't have, we hit it and we're done with it.
Right.
I think that that stuff is so important because
Well, and
that's where people are looking.
it's consistency of messaging too, right?
Mhm.
Like if we as a church, if our social medias or our websites say one thing and we say another thing from the pulpit, people are going to pick up on that, right? People are going to see all of those things, and yeah, how you do that, how you speak up and speak out in your community using your digital means. If people are watching that and they come and see you in person or watch a sermon online and those don't match up, there's no way in hell they're going to walk through your doors, right? And so those are places we can be consistent in our messaging, in who we are as a church, who we are as a people, how we're involved in the community, how we love and show grace in a way that tells people exactly who we are. before they even meet us, right? Or as they're getting to meet us in that digital way. Like I mean, you can say you're a missional church and you're involved in your community all you want, but show it, right?
Yeah.
We go back and forth on is this showy faith? Are we doing this just for ourselves? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes that is true. But there is not a, there's we've got to show those things. We got to show where we're showing up in our community, not as a pat on the back, but as an invitation of, hey, here's where we're involved. We'd love for you to be a part of that. That's the difference. That's the line, right? If it's just the, hey, look at us, who cares? But if it's the invitation that says, join us, that's huge.
I also think that this is just my pet peeve and whatever. I mean, to each his own, but don't just post scripture things like
Yeah. So
inspirational
that's the
quote
other thing,
things
right? Like,
unless it has meaning to what you're doing in the
hmm
sermon or your
hmm
Bible studies or whatever it is.
right.
But to just post like a random scripture and say "Have a nice day,"
Yeah. Your
like
your church Facebook page or Instagram page or whatever page is not your personal page, right?
yeah,
Like if you look at the statistics and analytics, people who post churches who post real content, when you Google church in my area, those are the things that come up first because they have better interactions, they're real, there's meat behind it rather than just a cute, glittery, if you scroll past this and don't click like you don't love Jesus. Don't put that on
yeah.
your stuff.
I
Uh,
also I also say the one thing that and it's something I've been working on here, and we're slowly getting things are getting
mhm.
better, but is encouraging your people in your online space, like when you're
Gosh,
on
yeah.
live,
hmm
engage like on the deal. And so
hmm
we're slowly getting better here. Talcol did it well and still does
hmm
it well. Like it's really great to see how they communicate. We're trying to get that a little bit, show a little bit
Yeah.
more interaction here than just consuming it.
hmm
It's getting better. The other is teaching your people, like as church leader, if you're a leader in your church, showing your people how to share and how to
hmm
like things, because that perpetuates it even further and more. I think that that's important. Also, giving your people direct links to your reviews, and so having them write a Google review. Like I just sent to my hospitality outreach missions and everything else team a link to the Google review and said, "Hey, I need you to give a, write a good review about the church because that's that stuff that
Yeah, people
helps
pay attention.
through the algorithm. They'll read through it. And if it shows that you believe in it, then it helps show that there are people that actually care for this space. And I think
Mhm.
that that's the other side of the digital front door that we have to really work on our people with is that, they like and share a lot of other things. Let's get them to like and share the church things because
Mhm.
that helps the church. It helps put the church on the forefront of things for people when they're looking or as they're seeing that you like something. Hey, if this person believes in that, maybe I could be a part of this too. And I think that that's that other side that we don't talk about. It's that witness side that we don't, um, especially like in the Methodist movement, we're not really good at witnessing, even though it's part of our membership vows. Although most of the people in our churches didn't take those vows because witness was only added later
Right.
in life. But I think that when we help the digital front door, it helps us build the kingdom even more in a way that can be it allows people to come in and gives people like if they see people believing in this, they'll come.
Yeah.
And I just think that especially in the season of Holy Week and Easter, if your church is doing things, like it, share it. Um, and then, those people that necessarily are not on social media, but like still, maybe they watch on YouTube or things like that. There are ways that you can still promote that stuff without having like you don't have to have a social media account to do that. And YouTube, just thumb it, give it the thumbs up, or make a comment on the video. That helps get the video seen. And to me, this is an important thing that we can't just let die, even though we're now uh, many years out of the full digital church that we were in for a season. I really believe in that this is a great way of us sharing the good news to the world in a way that we have never had this kind of access to.
Mhm. No, and people are watching, right?
Yeah.
People are hungry. for hope and for grace and for love, and for mercy and justice, right? If we want to lean into being really, really United Methodists these days, people are hungry for that. They're not hungry to hear about it. They're hungry to do it, right? They're hungry to be a part of something. And for me, it's that both and. We can have a digital presence all day long, but if we're not doing anything, if we're not active in our communities, if we're not reaching out and being in those sacred spaces and needed spaces, who cares? Who cares how good our website looks? Who cares how polished our Facebook is? If we're not doing anything with it. If we're not gathering people in community outside of that, we've missed that next step, right? Because it's not butts and pews. It's about how we gather and engage in those communities that need help, right? That are grieving, that are seeking justice, that are gathering in the community somewhere else. How are we showing up there? How are we giving people opportunities to show up in the name of God, right? In the name of grace and love, or are we just focused on Sunday? That
Well,
that's
and
that's where I
can
have to remind ourselves, remind my church.
and moving to a pay to watch system, which is something I've had conversation with
Hmm.
in different spaces. Don't do that.
No, no.
Um, because you don't ask people to pay when they come in the sanctuary. You shouldn't ask them to pay to watch. Now, you can encourage them to support this ministry, and please help support this ministry because it's expensive. Like we're getting ready to spend a ton of money on some upgrades for our system because it's aged. It's time to get a new one. And much like conversations you and I have when new gear comes out, like, oh man, if only we had money for the podcast to be able to buy the new microphones or the things like that to upgrade our stuff, but we're still able to produce good content. I think you can still produce, like phones have changed so much since 2020. You can do amazing things with just your phone. So like please know that you don't have to have the high equipment to do the things. But I really believe that consistency, connection are key to make a good digital ministry front door be vital to make a difference to it provides for us the most significant arena for discipleship making to occur. And it's not what the norm has always been. This is a new paradigm that we live in. But please, like when you hear of stories, like the story that's floating around our church right now is that we have a church member who actually listens to the podcast. I'll give Jonathan a shout out here. His mom watches and they watches our worship on Sunday morning and they have conversation about it. And that came back to me. Nothing warms a pastor's heart more than when that conversation, when you hear those conversations. I know my grandparents, or I know my grandma, and I know my sisters watched because they just it's what they do, but to hear those stories and to hear others, I've had other stories of people like, oh, I wasn't feeling good today, and so I knew staying home and I could watch was great, or I was watching in the airport as I was flying back
Hmm.
from vacation. And even now, we started our Tuesday morning Bible study has now started to meet on Zoom with people, allowing people who are sick or on vacation to come and be a part of something, a connection within a larger space. And what a great way to break down some barriers to say, hey, this is available. And I think that those are important. And so I think that's something we must continue. We must continue to adapt. We must continue to do it well and not worry about numbers. Our goal should be about lives changed and stories that help share that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, people, you got to start somewhere, right? We're not gonna go from nothing to TV quality, hour of power overnight. Start somewhere. People will forgive quality if you give them a place to show up. If you give them a reason to be there, and showing them where you're showing up in the world and where you're present there, people will forgive a lot of that quality, um, to be a part of something that's meaningful. And so start somewhere, and be consistent in it, and just show up, and yeah, don't worry about the how many. Just show up with who shows up with you.
Well, and I think it goes back to also acknowledge them. Like
Yeah,
like I need to get back in. We were in the habit for a while of turning and waving at the camera
sure.
during greeting time, and I got out of that habit. That's my fault more than anything. but I do acknowledge them every Sunday. Hey, thank you for joining us in person and those watching online. Thank you for joining
Mhm.
us today here at Castle Rock First Methodist Church. I'm Senior Pastor Matt Franks. We are blessed to have you today. I think making space for them in the larger spaces, like when you're doing worship or like some special event, like acknowledging their presence is key too. So.
Matt, you've talked a lot about the how-to, but why? If you had to give an elevator pitch of why it's important, why having a digital presence and a digital front door for the church and for our ministries is important, what would it be?
In the Gospels, Jesus instructs us to go and make disciples all over the world. This thing, this tool, allows us to do that, and it helps us to be in a space that we weren't in before, and it gives people a way to connect into us in a way that we've never been able to before. I would assume it's much like when the radio broadcast started happening and the TV broadcast started happening. And then even when you started publishing sermons, the way that John Wesley and Martin Luther became popular is because the printing press helped perpetuate their message. The technology is in a space where it's helping us make disciples. That's why we should use it.
Very good. I like it. Where are you seeing God at work this week, Matt?
Um, I am excited for Easter. In a way I've never been before. I was stressed at the first of the week because I realized that all my piano players are out for various reasons. I was a little bit stressed on Monday, having to realize that I had to find people to cover on the two high holy days of the season. But I was able to find someone who said yes. I actually found all three people to say yes, and so that's covered. But then, like, we're doing a reaffirmation of baptism in both services, and we're doing a baptism in one service, and like there's been an energy around here that's been so much fun to be around lately that it's just made there's been a presence. And I think of there's a hymn that's a sweet, sweet spirit in this place, and I know it's the spirit of the Lord. Like that keeps ringing in my head every day that I come in, and that's just a great feeling. And I am blessed. I get to pastor with such amazing people who are willing to do different things and take risk and explore doing things differently. That just makes it so much fun. And I it just it's that's where I've seen God at work through other people and through the way things are shaping up for Easter. Like I'm really excited.
Yeah,
What about you?
I love that. Um, Yeah, I am in the midst of taking an end of life doula certification course, and we're coming up onto our last week next week. Um, and I'm sad about it for a lot of reasons, but I really appreciate our cohort because it's not just clergy. It's people from all walks of life looking to do and be in the same sacred space, which is pretty dang cool. Um, but in doing so, I had the opportunity in another sphere to be at a conference last weekend about death and dying, and just sharing space with people. But I just went. Had the opportunity to go and had a couple of church members there that one I didn't expect to be there, but they sure didn't expect me to be there because it's just a weird different space and just out of nowhere getting to build relationships with folks that I know, um, but I'm getting to have the opportunity to know in different ways unexpectedly, you know. And that's really fun for me. And I see God working through that, and where I see why I started down this road. I mean, people aren't going to stop aging and passing away. And I've always held very sacred space for those moments, and appreciate the privilege and the honor and the trust that it is to be in those spaces. But through all of this and some things we're doing at the church, getting to have a lot of conversations with people at various stages of life about what it means about what death and dying and aging mean to them, and opening up the opportunity to hear their stories in a way that I otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to hear or would have heard at a different space. But in a group setting where they're having the conversation together, where they're being very, very, very vulnerable in a way that's hopeful and healing, but also real, in holding that space for one another, and holding that space for me to just listen and to be present in that. Pretty dang cool. I've really, really appreciated the space that doing this work has put me in, because it's just going to keep happening, and I want to get better at it. So, in being there for people. So it's just yet another opportunity where I see the Spirit at work and putting me in places where I can just sit and listen, which I often appreciate.
Cool. We want to thank our listeners for listening. And one of the ways that you can support us is like and share us through your social medias. That helps us. You can go on our website at beardedtheologians.com where you can find past episodes and even some old blog posts from back in the day. And then just, if you want to purchase some items, you can do that as well. And so we want to thank you for listening. So for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
I want you to subscribe and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.